Hi everyone. The most common reason still why people fail a driving test is observations, and this is generally at junctions. And in today's video I'm going to have a little look at why I think people are so bad at this and why they keep on failing. I've done videos on different parts of this subject before. This video that I did called Arrive Then Look, and there's been many things over the years, but I'm going to try and put a few of these things together and just give people an idea and an overview of why they get it wrong. I'm going to look at generally emerging at T-junctions and crossroads, and then we might move on to a few roundabouts. So just going back to what I said regarding Arrive Then Look, this is a common thing that people do. It's probably the number one thing I have to try and stop pupils doing when they are learning to drive. There's 5 main skills that, again, I've talked about before, that are all relevant on how quickly people learn. And to be honest, they're all based off fear, but target fixation is one of them. It's one of them that we've dealt with quite a lot recently as well, because I've done loads of work on space. So this is probably a little bit down those lines, but it is going to be a little different. So we're just going to have a little look and see how things go. So coming in towards any particular junction, when they've got to emerge, this isn't just learner drivers, by the way. This is a lot of drivers. We get sent in many clips to the channel about how people emerge poorly. I call them bonnet watchers. We're going to be having a look at this today, but people tend to stare at the giveaway line coming in and try and do absolutely everything at the last moment, and this is not how things should be done. First things first, we've got a residential road, we've got an unmarked crossroads. I often hear people say, what gear do I need to pick coming up to an unmarked crossroads? It depends on our view. We're going to have a little look right and left. Could I keep idling here and make sure no one was coming? No. So I'm going to slow down further, and that's the key. Lean in my seat, off we go, clear in all directions, and that's the key. Driving to the conditions, and if you can't see far enough to ensure not only people could be dealt with if they were travelling at the speed limit, but if people could be dealt with if they're not travelling at the speed limit, that's the speed that you need. And if you can't be sure of that, you keep slowing down. So I'm going to turn left. This one, again, it's in between what I call an open and closed junction. I'll just explain these a little bit, but I'm going super slow, I'm creeping and rolling, and this tight brake control is also key to how you should be fixing things. So that last junction, I said it was in between open and closed. A closed junction is where you've got maybe brick walls either side, you can't see to the very end. What you're similarly going to find at a stop junction where view is restricted. An open junction is like we've got here to the right hand side. I can see that BMW over the far side on some I think it's on stilts to get a little bit of fix done. The bonnet's open, the boot's open, but it's clear that side, it's clear ahead. So, but I've still got to go a little slower because I can't be sure no one's just going to bomb it through, and I'm still having checks back to make sure nothing's changed. So open junction is where you can see, closed is where you can't. If it's open from one side and closed to the other, you treat it like a closed. And I try and get my students to think of this as they're coming up to things. Could you walk out, or sorry, could you run out, or do you have to walk out? And if we look at this one side to side, view is restricted both sides. So what I'm now going to do, I'm going to take my time, I'm going to choose first gear or get down to less than walking speed, and that needs to happen before the giveaway so I get a chance to creep and do my observations properly. And that's key. People tend to arrive at the giveaway line and try and do everything within such a small space of time. And if you think of all the decisions you've got to pick up on, you've got to look for motor vehicles, you've got to check, this guy could walk out from behind the van. So notice again what I'm doing. I'm making sure no one's going to emerge into my space. But people think, I've got priority. No, you've got to think for them. And having that mindset also does loads to help the people who do make a mistake and emerge poorly. I'm not saying people are going to do it every single time. They're not. So this junction, we've got priority. Still making sure it's clear. That one was quite open. I could quite easily run through that junction. Let's just deal with this little corner. So yeah, going back to what I was saying, it's where you do your slowing down in relation to the giveaway that creates time. I'm going to turn left here. It looks quite open, but it is sharp. So again, I'm going to walk out because of the steering. And notice I'm slow early, and now I've created time to look everywhere effectively and thoroughly. And people don't do that. Like I said, they arrive at the giveaway. They've had no thought of what the junction is like, or they've done very little preparation for the junction or for the space that they're trying to pick until they get there. And that's why people make mistakes. They will miss a car that's coming quickly. They will miss a cyclist that's slightly tucked in behind a parked vehicle. Me, it's not going to happen because of how I go about doing things. So this is what I'm trying to get. I was just making sure of this one to my right hand side. Although they have to give way, remember, treat these situations as might not give way. I'm slightly digressing because we're talking about going from minor to major, which is from a road which hasn't got priority onto a road which has got priority. Just out of interest, major to minor is nothing to do with the size of the road. People often think that's the case. It's not. It's just about priority. So the major road is the one with priority. The minor road is the one that doesn't have priority. So let's think of this coming into a roundabout. Roundabouts are generally open, and a lot of the time, if it's clear, you can run out onto them, and sometimes even sprint out. In other words, you could probably get away with third gear. But notice my approach, it was slow because the vehicle's in front. I'm able to take that space quickly. But if you look at the Audi behind, they approached a bit quicker and had to stop because they weren't ready. And that's it. Again, I'm looking early, slowing early and going early. But I've got to make sure that I'm not doing things too fast to then cause any problems in this type of road. So I'm just going to head down here. We're going to do a couple of little tight roads in a second. So the busier the junction, the more you've got to obviously look at and take in. If it's crossroads like that one, those people are heading across, there's 3 different points that you've got to look at. Don't forget, it's not just right and left. Go on then, buddy. Yeah, there's 3 different points that you've got to look at. You've got to look across the other side as well as right and left. So if it's a crossroads, there's more points of danger or potential contact or conflict. Go a little bit slower. Let's have a little look at, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this road down here. And then we'll go and have a little look at a few tight ones. So we've got to think, remember, is it open, is it closed? Could I run out, or do I have to walk out? If you're ever in doubt, you're going to slow it down. If there's, I'm just going to hold back here for this car. This is the best space. Oh, thank you. If you're ever in doubt, slow it down more and possibly even gear down. No, I've picked the wrong road there. That's the dead end. It's the next one I want. It's been a little while since I've been down here. Okay, but you can see the type of road that I'm after. I'm after some even tighter stuff. So therefore, what's that going to say to us about our emerging? And therefore, even turning into roads like this, I had to go slower because I couldn't see and the roads are narrow. Perfect. So let's quickly deal with this one. I'll go back to what I was saying in a mo. It's really sharp. Could I just idle in first? Now there's a car coming, so I'm going to go extra slow. I think I've seen a left signal. No, I haven't. So that shows you that you never act upon a signal. I think possibly they put it on and then took it off. I don't know. This 360 cam might have picked up on that from there, but we'll see. Maybe not if they live in that road, or not live in that road, live in that house. But do you notice, again, I created time. I didn't make my decision quickly and go quickly. I'm going to do the same with this roundabout. I am going to turn right. I'm going to go back down. Broad lane it's the fourth exit from here. So can I see it's super sharp again? So again, I'm going super slow, creating time, happy everywhere, and I'll emerge a little quicker. Okay, and people, remember, they do that the other way around. They approach in fast, and then they end up coming out slowly, or coming out quickly, dangerously, because they haven't taken effective observation. So just try and create that time. Imagine your giveaway line. Imagine you're down to that super slow speed, probably a car length or two, depending on what the junction's like earlier. You need to have your speed slow and your probable gear engaged a lot of the time. In other words, you've got the gear and maybe ready to use it before you reach that giveaway line, because if you're doing everything at that giveaway line, like we've said, you haven't got time to do it. Okay, so I'm going to take the next left. Looking into my exit road, we've got the parked Land Rover, cars coming out. Is there enough space? I'm looking all the way up past the white vans up at the top. Okay, we're all good. So let's have a little look at a couple of little things around here. Careful of other people emerging as well. I'm going to take this road on the right, and we're going to go around the block and have a little go coming out of that one up there. People think that they've got to make progress, they've got to drive quickly. You will actually make better progress coming out of junctions if you slow earlier. Look at the problems with this one. Parked vehicles, ready in case someone came in. So I know I'm going to be walking out, so it's got to be first gear or less than walking speed, looking early, all directions, creeping out slowly, and I'm ready to take it and I'm ready to accelerate. Yeah, he didn't look in. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, arriving too fast for his observations. But just fix the problem. Perfect example, wasn't it, of how not to do things. People just don't take enough care with what they're doing. All right, I think that will do with T-junctions and turns. I think you get the idea. I'm going to go and find our way to some roundabouts, and then we'll have a little look at emerging onto them. So there's no better place to start than the two roundabouts here in Norris Green. They can be quite busy sometimes, but I don't think emerging's that difficult. Here I've had a number of pupils fail. I've seen other pupils fail for just target fixating at the second roundabout, and they actually missed the first. It's very common. Scan. I can't go, so I'm going to slow. Can I go after the Audi? No, I've got to slow more and then arrive after this one, which I was able to do with the braking. Crossing, that's going to be used. So again, I'm taking my time. The new driver weren't the best there. Did I say about the problems that people have? They come in too fast and emerge too quickly without taking effective observation. And that's, honestly, it just sums up exactly what I'm trying to do this video for. It really does. New driver didn't have a look. They just looked at the space in front of them. That's all people do. It's makes me cringe, to be fair, about how that person's going to be driving for the rest of the time. Now, why does this happen so much? Well, I'm going to tell you, because people do junctions in a routine manner, and that approach was a routine approach, but it didn't take into account the extra risk. and they do things in the same way. It goes back to what I said earlier on at the unmarked crossroads, when I said, I've had people ask me, what gear do we do an unmarked crossroads in, Ash? It depends. And that's exactly, well, more than likely what that driver does, just junction after junction after junction. I sometimes call this clutch down second disease, where everything a student does, they just instantly go, a little bit of brake, clutch down second, and that's fixing it. And it's not. And when they come up to something that is outside of that second gear parameter, they have problems, which that scenario with a crossing is a higher risk, but they'll also do the same at open junctions. Roundabouts that we're going up to now, they'll still slow it down, last moment, into second, make a quick decision. But hang on a minute, it's been clear for about 5 seconds. They maybe could have flowed through in third, or didn't even need to slow at all on certain roundabouts because they're that open, there's no risk on the roundabout. I'm saying you should career onto roundabouts because there's always, or there should always be, a thought of people coming on who might not give way. Again, I've mentioned that already. Giveways aren't giveways, they might not give ways. That's what you've got to think when you're on this major road. But that situation, it doesn't surprise me. On driving test, students will get away with it. They're going to have, say for example, they come up to a variety of junctions, but that standard approach, that routine approach, luckily gets them through it. And that's why I think the level of driving on the driving test needs to be raised. I think they need to make it more difficult. People are being allowed to get through with too many bad habits, and personally I think that's got pretty bad over the last little bit, with them meaning the DVSA trying to get the waiting list down. Not saying they were letting people off with stuff, but some of the driving that I've seen is horrendous since then. Okay, roundabout, I'll tell you what I'm going to do because of the queue. I'm just going to go ahead so I get to have a little look at an emerge rather than sitting in a queue. Important thing here is my vision, so I'm going to hold back to a space. Look what I'm doing, I'm holding back so we can see here. Can't go yet. Now I'm going to go up to the next space, have a little nosy, super slow, great, taxi's gone. Now watch when I creep in relation to the vehicle next to me. I'm sussing out where people are going and I'm out of there sooner. Might not give ways. Checking it all. Again, perfect example. Because I'm holding back, I'm not staring at the cars, I'm looking at the spaces, I'm looking at the positions of people. I'm just going to hold back and let the bus out, even if this Ford does not. After you, sir. Okay. And like I said, that's the difference. People do target fixated stuff. So let's go and have a little look at this on the way to some more roundabouts. Even here, they'll target fixate at one thing in the mirror and they won't be looking at the space in front. I had a lesson the other week with a driving instructor who is teaching people, and just something came up whilst he was doing a little bit of driving with a lane change. I spent most of the lesson teaching him how to lane change properly. Honestly, it's not his fault either. It's just the levels that, honestly, you can get through a test. You can get through a test without being very good. This is why I'm saying that the whole test scenario needs, in my opinion, a big rethink if we're going to get the roads a safer place. Now, this is relative, because the UK's roads, even compared to a lot of other countries, are relatively safe, but still too many incidents and accidents happen where people get killed and seriously injured needlessly, and it does it frustrate me? Yeah, it does. It does frustrate me seeing this needless loss of life through, honestly, impatience, a lack of professionalism sometimes, and people or organisations just having to hit targets. So if we're ever really going to get this better, there's got to be wholesale changes throughout. But let's go and have a little look about what I'm talking about, this approach and coming into roundabouts. Have you got any questions that you'd like to ask, or are there any questions? If there are any questions you'd like to ask, please do so in the comments. I do try and read still every single comment. It takes up so much of my time nowadays with the size of the channel, but please do ask if you've got anything that you need to ask. But I think I tend to explain things quite categorically, to be honest, when I do these Drive Like a Driving Instructor videos. As normal, it's not scripted. People say as well about talking and driving and talking to camera. I'm not talking to camera, I'm talking in the same manner I would do if I was doing instructor training, and I'm discussing the same sort of things I do on a daily basis with my pupils, and it's a skill that driving instructors do need to have, and it's another one that's lacking massively as well, the ability to talk, observe and drive. And I'm constantly trying to teach this to the instructors who I'm teaching. The observation skills for a driving instructor are way different than they are just for a normal driver. And the reason for that is you have to anticipate early enough to then be able to relay your instructions to your student and give them a chance to do it, rather than you just be able to react your way through it. And you've got a decent ability when you're a driving instructor at that level. You're an experienced driver, so you can deal with things on the fly, see things quickly, assess things quickly and react and act. But that's not possible for students. But the problem is driving instructors still take that same level of observation into their teaching, and it's not good enough. The part 2 exam for driving instructors needs to be improved and made more difficult. But let's go off and have a little go at a few of these roundabouts. So might not give way. They're going to see me great early slow, probably then just target fixated at me and just stop. Did you notice the distance that they were away from that giveaway line? That's another thing that all ties in to what I'm saying about the problems that people do have emerging. They don't know how to judge how long the car is. Again, done videos on this, how long the car is. If you see the giveaway line just underneath your mirror at the front, that's generally where the front of the car is. And as soon as it disappears over the bonnet, people think they're close, and then they stop because they don't judge that very well. That's one of the reasons why they target fixate at it. A giveaway line is not required if there's no one coming. See what you should look at first and see if there's anyone coming, because if there's no one coming, you can carry on through it. It just becomes a bend, that's all, honestly. Anyway, let's have a look early. Lovely and open. Roundabouts are generally like that, not all of them. I'm looking for a space already. The black car and the silver van are the last two. Red one's still fine, flowing on nicely. Not doing things quickly. I'm thinking might not give way. There's no point legging it in towards the crossing. I'm going to take my time. There's kids about. Let's keep an eye on the motorcyclist as well. He did have a little look at me there. So I'm just positioning next to the space as much as I can. Not that I want to get out there, but in case I need to. That's a better following distance, Mr. Motorcyclist. I ain't coming out. I've backed off early and showed the motorcyclist that I wasn't going to think about the lane change. Okay, let's have a little look at the next roundabout. It's pretty good because it's busy time of day. So I'm going to go ahead. It's the third exit. Got to deal with the crossing first. That actually helps and it helps people because they're slower coming in. And if you think about what I'm saying, I'm trying to get you and maybe a lot of my viewers to slow just that little bit more, just to give themselves a little bit more time. For example, if I'm in second gear already and just idling, how easy is it to pick your gap? Let's have a little look. Do I even need to brake? No. Straight out. Notice again, not trying, might not give way. I wasn't trying to be quicker than this one, I'm just aware of this blue one though. That's okay, because if they'd have turned in here, might have been a little tight. So I was making sure I was trying to be staggered. I'm going to be staggered with the van. So again, I'm slow and early. There's a few vehicles, lorries coming round. I'm going to look behind this van. Couldn't see well enough, so now I'm going to go up to a position where I can see. Now I'm not. Now off we go. So adjust more on the approach. How could you do a standard approach and make that situation okay? But if that situation doesn't develop in that particular way, can't see both sides of the crossing, so again, just made certain that that was okay. Remember what I said, I'm not being next to him, you can sort of like see how people, certain people drive, and he's one of them. But yeah, if that situation doesn't develop on someone's driving test and they don't have to deal with that in that particular way, and they have a standard clutch down second gear disease approach, they'll get through that roundabout and they'll get through the test. But then when they come to do that particular scenario, they don't. So, to summarise, observations at junctions are still the #1 reason why people fail the test. We need to do more to get that right at source. Like I said, driving instructors need to do a better job. Pupils need to do a better job. Examiners need to, honestly, not the examiners, the DVSA need to do something about this. Not sure, again, how that would be the case. Even really thought about how the test could change, but that needs to be addressed. But all I can do is just give everyone who watches my videos, and thank you very much for your support, all I can do is just give you that little bit of extra info. You can only affect what you can affect, and thankfully my umbrella of my affecting or being able to affect is growing. It grows slowly and steadily, but it is growing. But it's nice to see, honestly, everyone's support in the comments. If there's anything that you want to ask, like I said, please do, and I'll try and get around to it. But just remember, that little area past the giveaway line is exactly where people are going to be killed or seriously injured. So if you can go that little bit slower, if you can half your speed, you get twice the time to have effective observations at that danger zone, and that keeps everyone safe. Keep safe. I'll see you soon.